Hey guys, I'm really excited for this video. So this is my first video series of verses with using the Hive. So look at me, I can barely talk. I'm so excited. Um so I'm going to be taking a small portion of the Hive and seeing if they can survive in the world of Minecraft. I plan to do many other series in regarding if creatures from Galaxy After Man or factions from Galaxy After Man could survive in alternate realities, such as Minecraft, and I have many other games and franchises that I wish to do in the future. So, well, let's just have fun with this thought experiment and see where it goes. So, let's get right into it. So, for this thought experiment, we are going to say that a colony ship of the Hives, meant to settle on an already somewhat colonized planet, is unintentionally going somewhere it never could have imagined. As a result, we're going to say this colony ship will only have one hive, controlled by a single queen. Let's say this hive is around a smallish size, so it has 1,000 workers and 250 warriors and 8 royal guards. Why not? This hive will have some supplies along with fungwalker spores and fungus spores for crops. So for this story, we're going to say this colony ship, while en route to its destination, was ripped out not just a light speed, but the realm of existence of the galaxy, and transported to the dimension of Minecraft. But just for this story, the world is not blocky, rather more realistic. We're going to take a more realistic look at this scenario. I know that might not be as fun, but for this thought experiment, it was just easiest. So that's what we're gonna do. The colony ship appears high in the sky of this new world and crashes deep into the world's surface. So, what happens next? Well, for the colony, the first thing they will notice is they're separated from the greater hive mind. While they can communicate with one another and their ruling queen through the hive mind, they are unable to communicate with anyone else from the greater hive. Not to mention, they can't even communicate with the queen mother. I believe this would happen because, well, if this hive is in a completely different dimension, I highly doubt even their strong hive minded sense would be able to communicate with others in the normal Galaxy After Man galaxy. So, this will undoubtedly confuse them tremendously, and if their ship systems are still online, at least a little, they will notice they are nowhere close to anything recognizable. They are on their own and alone in this strange new world. So, what do they do now? Well, the hive mind is nothing but instincts. So nature will kick in, and the goal is to establish a new hive, regardless of it being a strange new world they find themselves in. A hive will take over and form a new colony. So first, some drones will exit the ship and begin to scout. Let's say they are in a desert biome, and after a few hours of searching, one drone finds a path into a large tree-based forest. So, with it still being bright out, the hive would all exit the ship, including the queen herself, and they will carry as many supplies as they can in order to set up a new hive. But they will do their best to remember where the ship is so they can come back, as they can't carry everything. As this large group travels across the hot desert, they begin to tire. Heat bugs have evolved from an ecosystem that's, while hot, it was still humid and damp. And this environment on Fungera is nothing like the sweltering hot desert they find themselves in now. But as time passes and the sun slowly sets, the temperature becomes a little cooler. However, the heat bugs, always keeping an eye out for danger, notice something strange in this new landscape. Strange alien life forms would begin to appear. Large bug creatures with 8 legs and many red eyes would be first. Then, as the sun slowly lowers and the world's single moon rises, even more aliens would seemingly manifest from nowhere. What look like upright, green, horribly damaged creatures whose flesh seems to be rotten and slimy with filth. Then, along with them, are the other creatures, yet only just bones, a walking skeleton of the alien, yet holding a bow. What are these skeletal creatures doing, and how can something like that exist? To the Hive, these aliens are very strange, as at this point they have never seen humans before, let alone the zombies and skeletons they see now. So this is all very new to them, and the Hive would have no clue what to think about them. But they would soon learn the intentions of these alien life forms. One of the smelly, rotten, green, upright creatures would walk closer and closer till they reach a drone that's kind of away from the group. The drone would be around 6.5 feet tall, with the alien being around 5.9 feet tall. The drone would flash his lights to the smaller creature to try to communicate and say hi to this life form. Yet in response, the drone would be attacked ferociously, being bitten and grabbed. The drone would be much stronger and quickly overpowers the hostile creature, slashing into the enemy's head with the drone's head blades, ending the monster. I think the Hive would most likely be able to handle the zombies and even the skeletons. Even though the skeletons have sharp arrows, I really don't think they would be able to punch through the heat bug's thick exoskeleton. And as for the spiders, I think even a drone, once more, like the zombies and skeletons before, the drone can simply just rip it apart, with warriors able to do far worse damage to them. Creepers, on the other hand, would be a very real danger to even warriors. Their blast at close range would easily do some serious damage, and a battle between a warrior and an enderman would be truly a sight to see. But in the end, I think they would be able to handle the dangers of Minecraft, at least for now. As the sun rises, the colony would reach the forest, and right away, they get to work to establish a new hive. I would say the drones would get to work digging and forming tunnel systems to build their nest. The throne room for the queen would be the first job and priority on their list, as getting her to safety is the most important, especially after the deadly night they just came from. Some warriors, I believe, would take a few drones out to hunt with them, but here's where the problem really starts. The amount of creatures they find to eat, such as sheep, cows, pigs, and chickens, simply would not be enough to sustain the numbers of heat bugs. And within a day, they would have wiped out the local population of all these animals, with very little food as a result. The colony ship has had some food, but not a lot, as the planet they were traveling to already had farms and food production well established, so food was not a big important thing for them to take in their journey. Also, the journey was supposed to be short, but for now, they have some food for everyone to at least hold them up for a little while. I think most of the workers digging and creating tunnels that they would set up at least a nice area underground for the queen to rest, along with many tunnels and rooms for the hive. The drones would also probably find a cave system as they were digging. I say most likely only 2 drones would venture into this cave, only for one to most likely be killed by zombies and cave spiders. This would result in the surviving drone calling for warriors to assist. So when the warriors show up in force, I think they would most likely wipe out everything in the cave. But they would discover many things as a result. In the cave are large amounts of useful resources such as iron, coal, and even gold. But as they slayed the zombies, They also discover the zombies drop rotten flesh. While rotten, heat bugs are not worried about eating this rotten flesh, as they do it all the time back on Fungira. So zombies are just now a food source. I say as time passes, a full-out hive would be built. A large, elegant throne room, engraved with gold as a sign of power for the queen. But also, the hive has miles of tunnels that twist and curve underground. Many tunnels lead to caves that are being mined, along with, not to mention, the countless rooms such as food chambers, sleeping chambers, and even farms. Underground would be farming chambers, with the soil damp and fertile so fungwalker spores can grow, along with other different kinds of funguses, in order to produce food. Yet this is not helping the hive right now, because this will take at least weeks in order for the first crops to grow. But as this is going on, warriors would travel great distances in order to find food. Some would catch fish from rivers, others hunt local wildlife, and some even find pumpkins and watermelon and berries. But all this would be not near enough to feed everyone. So many hive members, including the queen herself, would eat large amounts of rotten flesh from the decaying creatures they hunt at night. This would sustain the hive for now, but in only a little bit of time, I think this would become a huge problem. I say, even with the heat bug's great immune system and powerful digestive system, the flesh from the zombies would make them ill, and I would go as far as say, turn the heat bugs who consume enough of this flesh into zombies. As, in a realistic sense, this would happen. Even though I know in the game you can eat rotten flesh and only get just sick from it, but I think really, if the heat bugs eat this stuff, they would turn. So, what happens now? Well, I say most drones, which would most likely be the largest group eating the rotten flesh, and let's say the queen, most royal guards, and many warriors turn into zombies. So as a result, a civil war of a kind would break out, with the survivors trying to defend themselves from the undead. And with the queen even being a zombie, there is really no higher command, no plans, no tactics in order to fight off this strange, friendly foe. Or once friendly, I should say. I say this battle would be won, however, as even though a zombie heat bug queen is unquestionably powerful and deadly, the survivors have spike launchers and other weapons to fight them off. But they would take some serious losses. But I think in time the survivors would win and retake the hive. But so many lives were lost. Are the heat bugs able to recover? I would say these are some hard times for the hive right now. Let's say they have 1 royal guard left, 50 warriors, and 100 drones. Well, we're also going to say the former queen left some royal jelly, so the royal guard will eat it and form into a new queen. I believe her first order would be to burn all the rotten flesh as soon as possible. So now that there are a lot less heat bugs, it means they don't need as much food. I say the local wildlife, while they must travel great distances, they, for now, are able to get just enough food to sustain themselves. But I want to say a drone who was scouting made a great discovery, one that will change the hive on this strange world forever. The drone would have discovered that they are not the only intelligent race on this world. In fact, strange upright creatures who simply call themselves villagers would, well, live in massive villages. The drone would communicate, and while it would be difficult to understand the language barrier, for the fun of the theory, let's say it's established, and at least a basic sense of communication is formed. So as a result of this, I'll say they open up trade. The hive would have great amounts of wealth in extra metals to trade for, thankfully, food. The villagers, I would say, in time would get to know the hive so well that I think the villagers would even teach some of the few surviving farmer drones how to grow crops such as wheat, potatoes, carrots, pumpkins, berries, sugarcane, and all that good stuff, along with the knowledge on how to domesticate the local wildlife they have been hunting, such as cows, sheep, and chickens. This new knowledge and trade would be great, as these crops would grow within days rather than the Fungera crops that take weeks. In time, I believe that trade would become very well established and fruitful for both parties, with all this food able to help feed the hive when the fungwalkers and fungus crops were fully grown. It was not a hurried feeling, but rather a welcomed one, as food is no problem anymore. With this, I do think the hive would show their gratitude to the villagers by showing the villagers how to farm fungwalkers and other fungus crops. Whether the villagers would find these things delicious is questionable, but I think they would still just go along with it. And I truly think the hive would be able to prosper, and I say would even take a twist. With the village always being attacked every night by monsters and creatures and raiders who want to only eat the peaceful people and take their resources, I would dare to say the hive would make an offer. I believe the hive would propose the idea that their tunnels are a safe place, as I do think in a realistic world the villagers would at least ponder the idea of joining the hive and live within it. Why do I say this? Well, they know one another, and who knows how long they could have been trading with each other, getting to know one another, exchanging culture, and building up, well, maybe even friendships. So I think it could happen, and most of all, for protection, because I mean, who can defend the villagers better? A villager with their bare hands or a warrior drone? Heat bug. And I think, at least on the side of the heat bugs, they will welcome and befriend their new members. So one could find a nation where heat bugs harvest wood from trees on the surface, and villagers tend to fungus crops deep underground. A group of united people where villagers' children can play in the woods freely as they are being watched and overlooked and protected by a spitter who just picked a pink flower for the little hopeful child. I say that this would be going so well, and many new tunnels would be dug in order to resemble more villager homes and sleeping areas, like wooden aspects in the hive instead of the hive matter and stone. The heat bugs and villagers, I believe, would continue to get along and become close allies with one another. I even would go as far as to say, because this colony is fully removed from the greater hive, that the queen, alone in her own hive, I think she will take the chance and molt into a new queen mother. This would be not just celebrated by the drones and the heat bugs as a whole, but the villagers. So now, with this new queen mother, and the hive growing in numbers and power as a united nation, things are truly looking good. After years of this, the hive would expand, making other hive cities controlled by their own queens and empresses, all answering to this queen mother in the center hive. This will continue to only fuel the ever-expanding nation. Villagers would become a common sight within the hive cities, and even the main hive itself, both species working together to better themselves. And because of this, I think the heat bugs would produce less drones and more warriors, as the villagers are taking the role of drones. So there may be a shift like that. But as wealth and prosperity of this united hive continues to grow, it will be discovered by hostiles. I believe raiders will constantly begin a relentless assault on the Hive cities. But I'm going to be honest, a spitter standing guard would easily make short work of any attack by sniping off the attackers, and let alone the extra warriors, and let's be honest, most of all, the crushers would just simply stampede over the raiders and even their mounts and just wipe them out. I don't even think it would really be a fight. I think the raiders would learn very quickly that, maybe these hive cities are something not to fight. In time, I can easily see a grand civilization made up of many hive cities. The hive cities themselves would most likely be large and advanced, with villager-based buildings on the surface, while underground would be countless miles of underground tunnels. The villagers and the heat bugs would work together and maintain both parts, and much like the hive cities, there will be massive walls around their land, defended by countless spitters and other warrior-class heat bugs. I truly see the two people getting along and both prospering, but in time I think the hive will discover the nether and the horrors that truly lie within this new world. But that's a story for another time. To finish this story, I do think the hive will not only survive in the normal world of Minecraft, but thrive.